Xi Jinping and Ma Ying-jeou to meet in Singapore on Saturday. A new legal challenge against the third runway project. And the Maldives declares a 30-day state of emergency to ensure national security.
Good evening. A landmark meeting will be held this Saturday in Singapore between top cross-Taiwan Strait leaders Xi Jinping and Ma Ying-jeou. It will be the first such talks between leaders of the two rivals since the Chinese Civil War ended in 1949. As Diane To reports, analysts see strong significance in the timing of this meeting, which comes ahead of Taiwan's presidential election in January.
Xi Jinping and Ma Ying-jeou will make history on Saturday. According to the state-run Xinhua news agency, the head of the mainland's Taiwan Affairs Office, Zhang Jijun, said the leaders will exchange views on promoting the peaceful development of cross-strait relations. Zhang pointed out that Xi and Ma will be meeting in their capacity as leaders of the two sides. He called it a pragmatic arrangement in line with the One China principle that shows the willingness of the two sides to push aside differences. It's the first meeting between top leaders across the Taiwan Strait since the civil war between the communists and the nationalists ended in 1949. In Taipei, the presidential office said the purpose of Ma's trip is to maintain the status quo. Presidential Office Secretary General Zhang Yongchuan said no agreements will be signed at this meeting and no joint statement will be issued. The two leaders will address each other as Mr., avoiding the awkward title of President since Beijing does not officially recognize Taiwan's sovereignty. They're expected to have dinner together afterwards. The United States has welcomed the historic meeting.
The benefits that stable and positive cross-strait ties have brought to both sides of the Taiwan Strait, the United States and the region, have been enormous. We encourage authorities in Beijing and Taipei to continue their constructive dialogue on the basis of dignity and respect.
But on the island, pro-independence protesters took to the streets to voice their concerns. Head of the opposition Democratic Progressive Party, Tsai Ing-wen, said a meeting of leaders across the strait is a great event, but that people were informed in such a hasty manner is damaging to Taiwan's democratic politics. She questioned the timing of the meeting, which comes just over 2 months ahead of the island's presidential election in January. The ruling Kuomintang is expected to lose the election. A researcher specializing in cross-strait relations believes the talks will set some sort of framework to ensure that even if the DPP comes to power, it will be hard for the new administration to make key structural changes to cross-strait relations. As for whether the meeting will boost the KMT's popularity in the election, the analyst says more factors need to be taken into account before any conclusive change in voter support could be seen. Diane To, TVB News.
Employees of 4 tunnels have threatened to go on strike over unsatisfactory salary hikes. They are now holding a meeting with management to discuss the issue. The Lion Rock Tunnel, Chungkwano Tunnel, Kai Tak Tunnel, and Shingmun Tunnels are all operated by the same company. Michael Chuk, chairman of the Hong Kong Tunnel and Highway Employees General Union, says staff members are not happy with a lack of transparency within the company. He says pay hikes are usually based on the employees' performance appraisals, but no appraisals were conducted this time around, so they're not sure what their raise is based on. The pay hikes announced in August range from 2 to 3%. The staff side is demanding a 5% raise plus bonus.
Another local resident has successfully applied for legal aid for a judicial review against plans to build a third runway at the airport. A university student argued the airport authority had bypassed the Legislative Council in coming up with a financing plan for the project. She also accused the authority of imposing an airport construction fee on travelers. A tentative court hearing is set for March next year. The airport authority refused to comment, citing ongoing legal proceedings. Ash spewed by a volcano has forced authorities in Indonesia to shut down a number of airports. Among them is the airport in Bali, and that's resulted in the cancellation of hundreds of flights. In all, thousands of tourists are stranded on 3 Indonesian islands after ash from Mount Rinjani blanketed towns and villages. Rinjani, located on Lombok Island, has been blasting ash and debris 3,500 meters into the air. Here at Bali's airport, many travelers complained about a lack of information on their delayed flights. Some were sleeping on benches inside terminals. Rinjani is among about 130 active volcanoes in Indonesia.
Divisions within Asia over China's claims in the disputed South China Sea have spilled over to a meeting of U.S. and Asian defense ministers. The defense ministers were attending a meeting of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, in Malaysia, where the subject of the disputed territory was raised. China insisted the group make no public mention of the strategic waters in a joint declaration intended as a public display of unity. As a result, a joint statement was canceled, reflecting the split with China and other Asian nations over the issue. The United States and China were both invited to the meeting, even though neither country is a member of the 10-nation ASEAN. China's claims in the region are disputed by several of its neighbors. Last week, a U.S. warship sailed past Chinese-built islands in the disputed territory. The president of the Maldives has declared a state of emergency that will curtail key rights of citizens for 30 days. This follows the discovery of an explosive device apparently targeting the Indian Ocean nation's president. The device was found earlier this week in a parked vehicle near President Abdullah Yemen's official residence. Yemen does not live there but uses the building frequently for meetings. The country's vice president, Ahmed Adib, is being held for questioning over an alleged assassination attempt. In late September, when Yemen returned home after a Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca, an explosion occurred while he was taking a boat from the airport to the capital city. Yemen escaped unhurt, but his wife and 2 aides were injured. The vice president was arrested, but insists he had nothing to do with the explosion. The FBI, which investigated the blast at the Maldives' request, said it found no evidence that a bomb had caused the blast explosion, or the boat explosion, rather. Instead, specimens submitted for its analysis were determined to be components from the boat.
Russia's foreign ministry said yesterday Moscow does not see keeping Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in power as a matter of principle. The comment comes after talks in Vienna among the main foreign players involved in diplomatic efforts on Syria failed to reach an agreement on Assad. The U.S. has maintained any diplomatic solution must take Assad out of the picture. Alan Booknear reports.
The comments by a Russian foreign ministry spokeswoman suggest a divergence of opinion with Iran, Assad's other main backer. Maria Zakharova said on Russian television that Moscow never insisted Assad has to go or stay. Russia and Iran have been pushing for the Syrian people to elect their own president. That idea has been met with skepticism in the West, since millions of anti-Assad citizens have fled the country seeking refuge. In Washington, a U.S. State Department spokeswoman called it premature to invite Syrian opposition groups to the international talks. This comes after reports that members of the splintered opposition will be in Moscow for a meeting later this week.
We thought there was a good start in Vienna. The stakeholders came around the table, including Russia. We believe that as we continue to work through the dynamics of what was agreed in Vienna, that there will come a time, we think it's premature, before the Vienna group meets again.
Meanwhile, 2 human rights groups monitoring the events in Syria say the month-old Russian bombardment by its fighter jets has killed more civilians than Islamic State militants. The observatory said it's confirmed 185 civilian deaths in Russian strikes, compared with 131 IS fighters. A Russian military spokesman rejected the allegations, calling them a propaganda campaign. Alan Bookney, TVB News.
Crash investigators are preparing to analyze the black boxes from the Russian passenger jet that crashed last Saturday in Egypt, killing all 224 people on board. But as clues to the disaster begin to emerge, conflicting reports continue to hang over the investigation. James Aiken reports.
Drone video reveals the extent of the wreckage and the magnitude of the task investigators face as they attempt to piece together the final moments of the Metrojet Airbus A321. The remains of the last 28 people aboard the doomed airliner have been sent to Russia for identification. Investigators are now turning their full attention to the cause of the crash.
Большая трагедия.
At a briefing, Russia's emergency situations minister said the site should be studied centimeter by centimeter. Today, the search area was expanded to 40 square kilometers. A joint investigation team is also preparing to analyze the plane's flight data and cockpit voice recorders, which are said to be in good condition. Meanwhile, Egypt's civil aviation ministry said there are no facts to substantiate earlier Russian assertions that the plane broke up in midair. Egypt has confirmed that no distress call had been received before the crash, but the absence of a distress call, in addition to the widely scattered wreckage, suggests a sudden breakup to experts. Among the theories being floated is a possible structural failure, something the wife of the plane's co-pilot already suspects.
Я считаю, что нет. Я считаю, что он сделал все возможное.
In an interview with Russian TV, Natalia Trukacheva said her husband Sergei had complained about the technical condition of the aircraft. Adding to the mystery, U.S. officials say American satellite systems detected heat around the aircraft before it crashed. The infrared activity could mean many things, including a catastrophic explosion caused by a bomb or a malfunctioning engine. The Metrojet flight was leaving an Egyptian sea resort bound for St. Petersburg, Russia, when it crashed in the Sinai Peninsula. All but 5 of the victims were Russian. James Aiken, TVB News.
And when we come back, the first relocation of asylum seekers from Greece under an EU plan. Takata fined $70 million for deadly airbags. And in Rome, the Trevi Fountain restored to its former glory.
What once was S.H.I.E.L.D. no longer exists. But their enemies are still out there, and the world can't save itself.
This is a make-or-break moment. I'm gonna finish what I started.
Monday, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 2 at 10:40 on Pearl.
Andrea Bocelli presents his new album, Cinema. The world's greatest tenor sings cinema's greatest music. Andrea Bocelli, Cinema, the album, out now.
What's the best way to live well past 100?
I have lived well over 100 years, never been sick a day in my life.
Eat less.
I've had nothing to eat since lunch 15 hours ago.
Eat like a caveman.
I eat everything raw.
Thursday, Eat to Live Forever with Giles Corran at 9:35 on Pearl's Well-Being. Fancol Tensor Collagen Drink presents The Dark Knight Rises.
Welcome back. Authorities in Greece carried out the first relocation of asylum seekers from its territory to Luxembourg. It's part of a European Union plan to ease the burden on border nations inundated by the